This week's Zombie Commission Report is brought to you by Romero's Canned Brains. If there is someone you love too much to shoot in the face when they become a zombie, you are going to want a ready supply of Romero's Canned Brains. They come in a variety of flavors, including Drunken Redneck, Helpless Old Lady, and their latest delicacy, Newborn Baby. Romero's Canned Brains. That's good eatin'.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
The zombies are taking over.
She's been bitten! You know what that means? She's gonna turn into one of them! You fool! You're feeding him human brains! You're making him strong!
Every dead body that is not exterminated becomes one of them. It gets up and kills. The people it kills get up and kill.
In those moments when you're not sure the undead are really dead, don't get all stingy with your bullets.
Who died and made you fucking king of the zombies?
They are driven by the basest of impulses, the most basic of needs. The need to feed.
Kill the brain, and you kill the ghoul.
I'd like to have a calm discussion on this topic. You think we can manage that?
Hey everyone, Patient Zero here, bringing you the second episode of the Zombie Commission Report. X-Philia was supposed to be here this week, to do the Virgin Sacrifice episode. Unfortunately, we were unable to get our schedule straight, and so we're going to do some backup content instead. Thus, the title of this episode, Plan B. Note, listening to this episode will in no way act as an emergency birth control medication. Before we get started, I do have a few announcements to make. First, Zed Radio over on Twitter sent us a request. Apparently, their phone was going into standby mode while they were listening to the show and asked if we would be so kind as to also put the show on Stitcher. It took a few hours to get an RSS feed set up and then a day or so for the application to get approved, but the Stitcher application was accepted, and now you can listen to the Zombie Commission Report on YouTube, Internet Archive, the Zombie Commission Report website, and Stitcher. Go to Stitcher.com or open your Stitcher app and search for the Zombie Commission Report. We should pop up right there at the top. Next, I haven't really been on Twitter much this week, and there is a reason for that. I've been racking my brain over the show's Patreon page, specifically over the funding goals and the patron rewards. So far, I have one goal set. When the show reaches $25 per month, I'm going to start creating a monthly bonus episode for patrons only. What will it be about? I'm not sure yet, but I will be making it something more than just the normal content you get in the regular episodes. In other words, I really appreciate any support anyone gives, and I want to do something special for anyone who is willing to support the show. As far as patron rewards go, I've set two so far. The first one, donate $1 or more per month, and you will become one of those patrons that gets to listen to the bonus episodes when they are released. The second reward, and there is only one of these, is the show's sponsoring patron reward. Currently set at $40 per month, this reward entitles you to a 30-second spot at the beginning and a spot of up to 5 minutes at the end of each episode where you can promote whatever it is you're promoting to ZCR listeners. More rewards are being thought up, and I will let you know about them as they go live. In the first episode, I started a segment called The Horde. Now, I wanted to make this a weekly segment. However, I'm not getting enough answers in a week for it to really amount to much in the show. So instead of doing the Horde weekly, I will be doing that segment on a monthly basis. We're going to use last week's question for the rest of this month. That question is, when the zombie apocalypse happens, yes, when and not if, and we will get into that in a bit. When it happens, what will you not miss at all? Taxes, police telling you what you can and cannot smoke, standing in line at the only open register out of 30 at Walmart. It could be anything at all. Let us know. Reply in the comments or send us a tweet to @ZCR Podcast. Other than that, I'm fairly certain that without X-Philia here, this is going to be a much shorter episode than what I originally planned. But I'm pretty sure that's it for announcements this week, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and start off with something a little lighthearted. On Twitter, I started making posts that proposed remaking various movies into zombie flicks. In the absence of X-Philia this episode, I thought I'd provide you with a list and description of some films that would be great as zombie movies, or at least damn funny. So here they are, 5 zombie remakes that would not suck. Number 1, remake Red Dawn into Dead Dawn. Not to be confused with Dawn of the Dead, this is the story of a group of teens who managed to escape the initial zombie outbreak. From their base, a cabin deep in the woods of Colorado, they arm themselves and start fighting the undead hordes to liberate survivors, operating under the banner of their high school mascot, the Wolverine. Number 2. Remake the Boondock Saints into the Boondock Dead. In South Boston, 2 Irish brothers take on the roles of vigilantes, taking out crime organizations that have risen in the wake of the zombie apocalypse. Norman Reedus reprises his role as Murphy McManus, and, what the hell, give him a fucking crossbow so all the ladies swoon and drive up the box office ratings. Number 3. Remake V for Vendetta into Z for Zompocalypse. Martial law has been declared in England following the wake of a zombie virus outbreak. But a masked vigilante is on a mission to reveal that the new totalitarian government is to blame. How would he know? Because he was one of their test subjects, and you may call him Z. Number 4. Let's remake Braveheart into Graveheart. The proud nation of Scotland has been invaded by a massive horde of the undead. One man, the legendary William Wallace, after his wife is brutally butchered, embraces his destiny and raises an army to oppose the dead and free Scotland from their tyranny. Written, directed, and starring Mel Gibson, who will drunkenly blurt out anti-Semitic slurs throughout 3 hours. Finally, number 5. Remaking the X-Files into the Z-Files. Files, spelled P-H-I-L-E-S. 2 FBI agents must investigate and screw their way to the bottom of a government cover-up of an extraterrestrial virus that causes the dead to rise and attack the living. After 2 hours, the gorgeous redhead will be sorer than ever, and the obsessed nutcase will be no closer to finding his missing sister. Do you have a movie you would like to see remade into a zombie film? Share it with us in the comments or tweet your ideas to us @ZCR Podcast, and we could share it with listeners in an upcoming episode. So I hope that that little segment wasn't too horrible a substitute for the virgin sacrifice, and I do believe we will be getting to that eventually. But let's go ahead and move on to some zombie survival. Do you remember that at the end of every episode of G.I. Joe, there was like a little mini cartoon on safety or how to react to situations or something along those lines? And at the end of the episode, after the children had made the right decision about whatever it was, Duke would come up and he would say, "Now you know, and knowing's half the battle." Well, I kind of feel that knowing is half the battle. So, if a zombie apocalypse were ever to occur, it would be very important to know what it is that we were dealing with. So, I started looking into what would be the virus, the sickness that would actually cause a viral outbreak, a zombie outbreak. So last week I went through and classified different types of zombie. For each type, I discussed whether they were possible or not, and whether or not whatever created them could go pandemic. Now, most of them were extremely unlikely, none more so than the revenants or zombies from God, as I call them. A couple were possible, though very far fetched, but at the very end of the segment, I explored a very possible scenario for a real life zombie apocalypse. You heard that right. A zombie apocalypse is very possible. Not only that, I went on to say that the seed for it may have already sprouted. Now, you might think I'm a little bit crazy at this point, so let me explain. I'm not talking about dead people getting up and cannibalizing their fellow man. Dead people getting up and walking around is never going to happen, and to think it would is just insane. But people catching and spreading an infection, that happens every day. We're talking about a 28 days later scenario here, not a Dawn of the Dead or even zombie strippers. Sound a little less crazy to you? Well, keep listening because shit is about to get very real. You may be listening and thinking, yes, people catch and spread infections every day, but there are no viruses that would make a person that violent. Well, guess again. In my research, I've started reading about rabies. Now, rabies is a viral disease that fits all the markers for the zombie virus. Its symptoms include hyperactivity, so we're talking about the fast zombies from Dead Island and not the slow bitches from Resident Evil, headache, fever, nausea, vomiting, and confusion, all classic symptoms of turning into a zombie, difficulty swallowing, and excessive salivation. So, guys, to answer your question, those zombie strippers spit. Insomnia and hallucinations, hydrophobia, or a fear of water, and partial paralysis, so the uncoordinated movement of zombies is even possible. But there are two more symptoms I want to inform you of. First is aggression. It is very well documented that animals infected with the rabies virus will attack unprovoked, and so will humans. A man with the disease in Mumbai, that's in India for all of you who don't know geography, became uncontrollably violent when hospital staff tried to hydrate him and they had to call in the police and firefighters just to subdue him. The second is that those infected with the virus develop a compulsive need to bite. If you listened to last week's episode, we talked about mind controlling parasites. Often these parasites change the behaviors of their host in order to make sure that they are spread to new hosts. Well, guess what? Rabies can easily be spread through saliva. Remember, it creates excessive saliva. Now we're talking about a compulsive need to bite. It is believed that this impulse to bite is generated by the virus itself to ensure it spreads and therefore survives. Oh, and the first few symptoms of rabies experience often make the host think that they've come down with the flu, making them less likely to get checked out until much more serious symptoms develop. All of this makes the virus a perfect fit for a zombie outbreak, and it is a very real and well-known disease. You see how this is shaping up? But you may be listening going, okay, people catch and spread diseases every day, and rabies is a real virus that causes zombie-like symptoms and behaviors, but it's never gone pandemic or even epidemic. Actually, it has. In the 1950s, an outbreak of rabies started in Florida wildlife and spread for 40 years until it reached the raccoon population of New York in 1990. That epidemic spread at about 10 or 20 miles per year. More recently, in 2009, a rabies outbreak in res- Angola, I believe, yes, resulted in the death of 93 children. Starting the year before, in 2008, an outbreak of rabies in Bali lasted until 2011 and resulted in an island-wide vaccination program. In all of these instances, this was your normal, run-of-the-mill rabies virus. So what would happen if someone decided to turn it into a weapon? You may say that will never happen, but I will refer you to an article on io9.com which talks about rabies being used, at least in theory, as a biological weapon as far back as the 4th century BC. It is a great article, and I'll include a link in the description below. It describes an Indian manual on warfare suggesting arrows poisoned with the blood of muskrats will cause those pierced with one to bite 10 companions, who will in turn each bite 10 more. Around the year 1500, Leonardo da Vinci conceptualized a balm that would use the saliva of mad dogs. In 1650, Polish General Casimir, I want to say his last name is pronounced Siemienowicz, suggested using the slobber from rabid dogs to create epidemics of rabies. The article stops there, but in today's world of nuclear, chemical, and biological warfare, it seems to me that there has to be a highly potent, weaponized rabies virus out there already. If you think that's conspiratorial thinking or extremely far-fetched, you really must think that you live in Candyland. Because, earlier this year, flu researchers at the University of Wisconsin revealed that they had created a mutated version of the Spanish flu, which killed tens of millions of people in a very short amount of time. They did it I'm sure that they thought that it was contained and everything like that. I'm sure it is contained, but accidents do happen. The researchers stated that they created this virus in order to better understand how pandemics start and in order to develop better vaccines. While their intentions are benevolent, that does not mean others are not creating mutant diseases for other reasons. Money, radical religious beliefs, causing chaos in warring nations, or just for the hell of it. There are several reasons some crazy-ass motherfucker might do this. And an aggressive weaponized version of the virus just scrapes the surface when you think about today's advancements in science and technology. These bioweapons could easily be made airborne, drug-resistant, and non-lethal without losing any of the other symptoms. Sound a little less crazy and a little more possible to you now? If you ask me, an actual Z-Day is more possible than an apocalyptic meteor strike. So let's hope the day never comes, but be ready for it if it ever does. This is Patient Zero with the Zombie Commission Report, signing off for a short but I think informative episode. Feel free to join us next week, December 20th, 2014. We'll be back with our third episode, in which we are going to be talking about a show that almost made it to Canadian TV, Wasted. That's right, zombie apocalypse, the Zombie Commission Report gets wasted. If you like what you hear, follow us on Twitter at ZCR Podcast. And if you really like what you hear, please feel free to provide us some support over on our Patreon page. That's patreon.com patreon.com/ZCR podcast. Until next week, I'm Patient Zero saying, if it doesn't have zombies, it doesn't have brains.